Hi, everyone. Welcome to Hey, That's Me, a commentary podcast. I'm Patrick Hotner.
I'm Brian Lynch, and this is our premiere episode.
Crazy. We're here.
It's so exciting. We both got really dressed up.
We've been working on this for months.
Yeah, no, we wanted to have a lot banked so we didn't miss a week.
Yeah.
And we do now. And here we are.
So on this podcast, we do audio commentaries for movies or TV shows with people who worked on them who never got to do commentaries on them. Whether you were an actor or whether you were a writer or whether you worked in craft service, we want to talk to you. We want people who don't work in the industry to find out what all these jobs do and what all these people do on movie sets, because you watch the credits and there's 7 minutes of credits and you're like, what did that guy do? What does that job mean? What is a gaffer? What is a best boy? You know, all that kind of stuff is like fascinating to people,
Right.
both who work in it and people who, never have been on a set before.
I was just at the movie theater this weekend, and when the credits were going, everyone in the audience was pointing at the credits and saying, what does that person do?
Yeah.
So angry. I had to get my kid out very fast because the people were so mad.
Did you tell them?
I couldn't do it over the roar of the crowd because there's so many people asking. So I got out of there.
Which is why we're doing this podcast.
I wish I had cards for the podcast to hand it out, but
Sure.
I didn't. I just panicked.
They're just not ready yet. We ordered them.
Oh, man. That's terrible timing.
Now, we haven't talked about why we call this show Hey, That's Me, a commentary podcast.
Okay.
We have one rule, and it's that when the person sees themselves on screen or sees their credit on screen,
They have to say,
hey, that's me.
and nobody gets it right.
Nobody, I don't think anyone has gotten it right. It's all been like, oh, there I am. Hey, I'm on screen.
Hey, look at that. Which is awkward because my other podcast is called Hey, Look at That.
That's true.
So they're kind of giving free advertising.
What was
for
that one about again?
Just me going around pointing at stuff. It's a terrible podcast because people can't see what I'm.
Yeah.
How am I expecting them to look at it? Terrible. It's not about me. It's about Tickled.
The first episode, we're going to be watching the documentary Tickled, directed by David Farrier.
And starring him.
And starring him and produced by him and, all of these things by him. A real tour de force of David Farrier.
Who did we get to watch Tickled with us?
David Farrier.
That guy?
That guy.
Wow.
It's a really great movie. It's streaming on multiple places right now. You can find it free and for purchase.
Yeah.
And I think that if you have not seen it, you should probably watch it first and then watch the commentary.
It is you won't see anything coming.
Yeah.
Like I could spoil 5 things for you.
Yes.
And there's still 10 more that would make your jaw drop.
It's genuinely an experience unlike almost any documentary that's ever been made. It's been one of my favorite movies for a really long time. I saw it at the Sunshine Cinemas in New York City, the now defunct Sunshine Cinemas, in 2016 when it came out.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. A great movie theater that's now closed. But I saw it there, and I was booking ASCAT at UCB in New York at that point, which is an improv show where celebrities come in and tell stories from their life. And as soon as I saw it, I was literally walking out of the theater. I looked up David Farrier's contact info. I emailed him, and he did it within the month.
Wow.
He happened to be in New York promoting the movie, and it was genuinely, I was so excited for it.
Wow.
And he's been a great guy who will come on whatever I ask him to come on over the years. And it's been super fun getting to know him and getting to, hang out with him a little bit. And this was very exciting, getting to ask him all of the questions I've ever wanted to ask him in one spot at the same time.
Right.
And that's kind of the goal of this podcast is what's everything you've ever wanted to know about this movie or TV show? Ask it right now because they're right here watching
because
it with
we
you.
wanted to know it too. So we're going to ask them.
Yeah.
Nicest guy in the world. But see if you can point out the most awkward moment that I've had on this podcast with anyone.
Okay.
It's totally on me. Maybe when we'll come back after it and I'll reveal what it was.
Sure. It's a very fun movie and we hope you enjoy it.
Oh, you're going to enjoy the movie if we don't drag it down with our commentary.
Should we get started?
Let's watch it.
Let's watch it.
Oh,
all right, we're gonna count down from 3 and you press play on go. You ready, Brian?
No.
3, 2, 1, go. All right, we're here. Let's all introduce ourselves so people know who they're listening to.
My name's David Farrier, and I made this with my friend Dylan ages ago now.
Yeah, it's been a while now.
It's been a while. This came out 2016.
Wow. I'm Patrick, of course.
And I'm Brian.
There you go. 2016. So you started in 2014 probably on it?
Horseshoe Films, that is a play on the fact that my surname is Farrier.
Oh, wow.
And we shoe horses.
Wow.
I knew
back
that.
in the day.
I knew that.
You knew that?
That was my first question.
That's what Farriers did.
So you started on this when? 2014?
Yeah, this would have been, hey, that's me. It's the back of my head.
Look at that.
There he is. No gray hairs.
You might be the
Surreal.
quickest person that's been in the movie
That's true.
that we've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of those like very self-involved people who inserts himself immediately into the documentary. These are all clips when I was a light entertainment reporter in New Zealand.
Did he really eat the frog? He ate the frog.
He ate the frog. Yeah, it was dead, and he ate it. He's called Scary Terry, was his name, and he lived in Hamilton, New Zealand.
We have him next week on this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, he would be incredible.
He's doing just that clip from this movie.
Scary Terry.
How was Justin Bieber?
He was great. I met Justin Bieber at just when he had hit big as just out of YouTube star,
Sure,
releasing things. He was a tiny child. None of what he came to be was in him at that point.
Sure.
He was just this innocent little kid.
Is this really the office you were working on?
This is the TV3 newsroom. That's where I worked.
Yeah.
It is now. It's all shut down. It no longer exists because that's what's happening to journalism. A lot of the newsrooms in New Zealand have closed since I made this film. So yeah, I spent about 8 years. I graduated from journalism school, went straight into this newsroom doing different jobs. And so this place I'm looking at now, it's surreal because it kind of built me.
And they had no problems with this movie. They were fine with you making the movie. Did they produce it? Anything? Or
No, nothing to do with it. For this, I just said it was a weekend. I was like, I'm just going to come in. I'm making this documentary. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm just going to shoot me at my little computer doing Googling.
Sure.
And they're like, yeah, it's fine.
Wow. Okay.
Can you talk about some of the other stories you did before you got to the tickling competition?
Yeah, I was I worked on a late night show called Nightline at 10:30 at night, and I would do the entertainment kind of light kind of stuff. So there was a combination of talking to celebrities that were in town. So if Leonardo DiCaprio was had some movie out, I would interview him for 2 minutes and I'd do the junket thing.
Sure.
And then just light entertaining stories like Scary Terry, who you saw at a frog earlier. He was driving his neighbors crazy. And so that was a story. I'm going to drive an hour and meet this guy that's annoying his neighbors. And you will put that on the news.
But that seems to be your thing.
It is my thing.
It's I'm going to go meet the guy who's driving these people insane.
Completely. And I was the wacky guy. I mean, I grew up sort of on Louis Theroux's stuff.
Sure.
And so that was in my mind. And so when I came, the whole tickling thing, that was going to be, I was working in a newsroom. It was going to be a 2-minute story on the news because I saw that New Zealanders were being flown over to this tickling competition in LA. And I was like, oh, that's me.
Wow. And
that's how it all started.
So did the news fly you over the first time, or how involved were they in the story? And
no,
when
not
did
at all.
They left the story with
you.
you? Nothing at all.
So I wrote 3 blog posts. It's when our website was we should get more content online. Sure. It's they think maybe TV might die one day, so let's get this website up and running.
Very smart of them. Very forward thinking.
So I started writing for the website as opposed to just doing TV stuff, and I wrote 3 kind of blogs posts about the start of Tickled. There's a tickling competition. People are being flown over to America to tickle, and that's when we got our first legal threat. And that's the point also where I went, I think this is bigger than a news story. And I just decided to make something completely separate to the newsroom. And that first trip to America that we took, that was funded from a Kickstarter campaign.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, the newsroom was totally hands-off.
Wow.
Look how beautiful New Zealand is.
Now, where is this in New Zealand?
This is Herne Bay. It was maybe a 5-minute walk from my house. And just beautiful, beautiful waters. Yeah. God, I miss New Zealand so much.
So you started getting threatened, and then you were like, I need to go further into this. Because my natural reaction would be, I want to stay away from these people. You know
this
what I mean?
Is bad.
I'd be scared.
Yeah, I became more curious.
Yeah.
It's I was curious about the tickling competition, and it was obviously pretty homoerotic because you had only men. They were only they were sort of young and athletic dudes. And so when you inquire about that, and the first thing they do is you faggot.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? I just wanted to cover this thing you're doing. And so, became incredibly curious.
Sure.
And just started sort of pushing further into it.
Did
This
you?
is Dylan, me and Dylan. So I didn't know Dylan before
I was
making.
gonna ask about this. What is
I didn't know
your
Dylan
origin
before
story?
making Tickled. So I wrote some Facebook messages, like status updates, like linking to the news articles I'd written. And Dylan out of nowhere was like, "I'm pretty good on computers. I'm going to dig around."
Oh wow.
And we started just chatting with each other online. And then when the legal threats started coming in, we just decided, why don't we do a Kickstarter? And sort of felt it out from there.
Has he done other films since then, or was this his one foray into?
He's done Dylan has done so many things. He was an editor on our like biggest show in New Zealand, Shortland Street.
Oh wow.
So he editing was his background.
Okay.
And so we went and did this. But since then he's like directed a bunch of stuff in New Zealand.
So was that his
He
house?
also has a lot of children.
Oh.
So whereas I could kind of come to LA and
Right.
start fiddling around, he had children to feed.
Was that his house that you guys were just
Yeah.
in? Do you guys get nervous showing the outside of your houses in things like this?
We just don't like put the number on.
Sure.
Or street names. But now I say it like, yeah, there's ways to find a house from just an
Right.
exterior.
In Mr. Oregon, I think we see your apartment,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
But you were out of that apartment by the time it came out.
I was.
To
I'd
talk-
moved.
Mr. Oregon's
Yeah.
your next film that came out last year, I think,
Yeah.
right?
I just sort of have this rule of as long as there's not a street name or a house number, that'll probably be okay. But yeah, no, this is all real. This is the house I was living in at the time. I'm walking down to the letterbox to get a scary legal threat.
Mm-hmm. When did like Stephen Fry and HBO come on board, and everyone else too?
Stephen Fry was a Kickstarter backer.
Oh wow.
And he basically we had different rewards, and he basically gave us about $5,000,
Wow.
and that gave him an executive producer credit.
That's amazing.
And so when he did that, we actually had to get in touch and say, like, really nice that you picked that reward structure, but do you actually want to be an EP? And he was like, send me cuts.
wow.
I'll give you notes, and as long as it's not a total piece of shit, then put my name on it.
How would you have felt if he was like, actually, never mind?
I would have been sad.
Yeah, of course.
Because Stephen Fry is a hero. It would have been really, actually, real. But no, he was really supportive, and he did give really good notes, and he was just a huge champion of the whole thing. So that's how he got on board, and then HBO got on board when we had it at Sundance,
Okay.
and they were like, "We want this film. We'll help you put it out."
So you went to Sundance, and there was no distribution at that point?
Not at all.
That's-
No,
okay.
went in there completely with nothing set up,
Wow.
and it was a blast.
How long do you think you were filming from beginning to end?
It was short. Like we maybe shooting for a year,
Okay.
probably. Beginning to end of finding the story and releasing was 3 years, which for a doc is, that's come out of nowhere. I think is pretty good.
This is a beautiful sign, by the way.
Thank you.
I was really impressed by it.
This is when we were really. We were sort of discussing, are we gonna go to LA?
Yeah.
And then they suddenly said, we're coming to New Zealand. And so I was like, so in my mind, I was thinking, what's a scene that we can do
Right.
to make it? And so I just thought, we'll make a silly sign.
Right. Break
and
the ice.
You break the ice. And it
Mhm.
just worked out so well because a guy that DP from the newsroom I was in at the time, I just got him to come out and do this. He's holding just like his tiny little camera. They don't notice.
No.
They're so surprised that I'm there.
Yeah.
They have no idea. And he's not being subtle. Like,
No.
Billy's like, he's this like big dude. He's got the camera out. Yeah. They don't clock it at all until.
But their vibe totally changes once they do clock it.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite moments when they catch the camera.
Because look at me smiling back. That like all three of them, they're smiling.
There
They're
we
that's
go.
like the
Pete
yeah.
Davidson notices first.
Yes. Yes.
He's seen, and then your Kevin
Oh,
gets
this
shitty.
guy, yeah.
It's a look, isn't it? He's got a
Mhm.
look.
He
Do you-
does.
Do you think on the plane on the way over they established the good cop, bad cop routine?
I
Like
think they
yeah.
did. I mean, for them, that plane ride to New Zealand must have been so weird
Yeah.
because you've got the guy at the back who is in the tickling videos.
Mhm.
You've got Marco who takes the photos and Kevin who produces, and then I guess they get an email from David D'Amato being like, "You're going to New Zealand.
Right.
You're going to meet this guy David and his friend Dylan, and you need to convince them this is chill." and that I'm not behind it.
Yeah.
Go.
Now they say at this point, they say we haven't met Debbie or Jane or anyone.
Yep.
Do you which obviously is true because those people don't exist, but do you think they had met David at this point?
No, they never did. None of them met him. It was all over
But
emails.
then they meet him by the time the Tickle King.
when Tickle comes out,
Yeah.
I didn't even know if then they did. They weren't mingling.
Well, one of them is with
No, they're
him.
there, but they're separate. David
Oh.
D'Amato
Oh.
was there with his security guy. Kevin and Marco were at a different screening. So no, they weren't in a crew
That's
ever.
crazy.
You know, he kept David D'Amato kept his real life and that tickling thing completely separate.
Wild.
Yeah, it's.
I thought they showed up together. I really did.
No, separate
Wow.
separate entities still. Yeah,
I think
so
David
weird.
probably didn't hang out with a lot of people in general, right? Like, yeah.
He had a couple of buddies, but he was pretty solitary.
Okay.
He liked his online life.
Sure.
So these are recreation. We didn't do many recreations in this. Like most of it is shot as it happens, but we had this. We had audio of this meeting from inside,
Mhm.
and then we shot this stuff.
Now, is that you're shooting in a hotel room? Is that considered a public space? Because you talk about how in New Zealand you can film in public spaces.
Yes.
So the hotel room is considered public there.
You are. Oh, we have like what's the term? You're allowed to record anyone as long as one of you knows that it's being recorded.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Oh my God.
it's I think you call it like a one-party system. So essentially here in LA, I can't secretly record you guys because you both have to consent.
Sure.
In New Zealand, as long as I consent and I
That's
know about it, it's
crazy.
fine.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I could record all of this and put it in a film.
Are you?
Right now?
Yeah.
I'm recording all the time.
Oh
This
my
phone's
goodness.
going.
Oh my God.
well,
always protecting myself.
well, we're recording too.
Oh.
So
Yeah, good point.
I thought we were just hanging out, you guys. I didn't know either of you was recording.
This is a podcast?
Yeah.
What the hell? So yeah,
um,
this is our fanciest hotel in New Zealand. It's a Hilton. It's down by the water, down by the waterfront.
and what city
very
is this? I'm just
swanky.
going to keep asking. What
This is
cities
in
things are.
Auckland.
Okay.
This is where I studied and worked. And all
How
those
far
things.
away is that from where you were living?
I was living in Auckland at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Beautiful. Look at this. A beautiful boardroom.
What do you think it is about? What's the right word? I mean,
tickling?
no, I was gonna say like strange people that attracts you. Like, what is the thing that brings you in?
I don't. What I like to think is I grew up in a pretty conservative Christian home,
Mm-hmm.
and my life was pretty defined and pretty vanilla. And I think when I got into journalism, I just got so delighted that I could go and just meet people so different to me, and I could have access to those worlds through journalism. And I think I just pushed that sort of further and further. And so, yeah, I think Tickled's an example of that. It was like a interesting world I didn't know about people that love tickling. And then it was just this further enticing aspect of having people being like, you mustn't make this film. You know, we're going to sue you. That is just, it's being out of my comfort zone. That's kind of comforting.
Do you get tired of being threatened?
No.
No.
Wow. I like it.
Yeah.
It's
You live
interesting
life on
to
the
me.
edge.
Patrick, threaten him. Threaten him.
Threaten him right now.
Treat me
Before
now.
the end of this recording.
It's my
It's
fetish.
coming. Yeah.
It's what I want.
I was talking to Patrick about this before you came over, and what I love about this movie is some documentaries make fun of their subjects. You want to understand them. You want to see their angle, and it comes through. You're not making fun of it, even when it gets really weird. And that's admirable.
Thanks for saying that. I do want to always try and just let people show themselves for who they are in whatever way, and I don't sort of need to be there laughing or sort of judging them.
Mm-hmm.
My role, I see, is just sort of being there, being like, can you explain what you're doing?
Right.
And why? And just being very open to whatever they have to say. That's a seagull. I love birds. Like, I am a bird person, so I love getting shots of birds.
Was that your bird that was on you in the one shot?
Yeah, that was
Early?
Keith, my parrot earlier.
I thought that was Keith.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Keith. That's my parrot.
Was that a recreation or was that in the moment?
That was in the moment.
Oh wow, that's
It
amazing.
was a few
It
moments.
was a CG.
Yeah, there's a lot of shots of me looking, like thinking in the rear vision mirror.
Have there been moments when you're either going to interview people or in the middle of interviewing someone where you go, I should bail. I should get out of here?
There's
I'm also thinking of like Dark Tourist too. I feel like there's some moments where you feel like you want to get out of there.
Yeah, there was a moment in Dark Tourist where we were hanging out with these people that thought they were real vampires in New Orleans, and it was hot as hell. It was so sweaty. I was in this tiny bathroom that like smelt, and I was so hot. And there was this like young guy with his shirt off, and there was this like bigger guy like sucking like blood out of his back, like he'd got him bleeding and was sucking the blood. And I was like, I just don't want to be here. I'm hot. I'm grumpy as hell. I don't want to be seeing this.
I love that those are the reasons you don't want to be there.
It's too hot. It's too hot.
It's moist.
Yeah, so certain moments, but at the time you just, you're in these fascinating situations, and I'm with my friends,
How many trips to LA did you guys do?
We did 2. We did one for the Kickstarter,
Oh, wow.
which ended up being more like a research trip in the end. And then we went back when we had a bit more funding. And we shot most of Tickled in 3 weeks.
Wow.
We had very limited money.
Yeah.
And so when we went to America, which is predominantly what this film was about, it was over 3 weeks. And every day we were shooting from beginning to end. It was perfectly aligned. We'd just researched it so well. So it was organic in certain ways, but we're also incredibly lucky that the days we chose to do a stakeout at the Tickle Studio was the day that worked out.
Yeah.
I just like that sentence. The day we chose to do a stakeout
Normal
at the Tickle Studio.
This was a tricky shoot because we had TJ, who we wanted to interview, but we had nowhere to interview him. So it was like, we want to interview him in a gym. Trying to find a gym that would let us shoot. We were a bit disorganized with this, like shoot like the next day was so hard. So we ended up in Long Beach in this gym. Can't remember the name of it, but there were some scary people there. And there were a few people when they saw the camera, they were like big dudes were like, what, like, am I in shot? Like so intense.
And then I imagine you say, no, it's okay. We're doing a documentary about competitive tickling. And they say, yeah, never mind. It's
like,
fine.
cool.
It's totally fine. But no, this was hell for sound in the edit because there were so many like dropping like weights and things being adjusted. But we got there.
So you did the LA stuff, the Michigan stuff, and the Orlando or Florida stuff?
Yeah, Florida
all on the same
stuff,
trip?
and New York.
Oh, in New York.
Yeah,
sure.
all of it. Yeah.
Wow.
What's he up to now? You still keep in touch with him?
TJ, yeah, we're Facebook friends. We're on Instagram.
See, you're
you end up being friends with all these people. I mean, he had a kid, and we sent him like a little All Blacks onesie for his kid because that's what you do in New Zealand.
That's amazing.
We love the All Blacks. Yeah, a lot of the people along the way. I mean, the sad thing about this film is that a few people have passed away now. So, spoiler alert, but David D'Amato had a heart attack. Yeah. Jordan, who was the MMA fighter, he had a motorcycle accident and passed away. And Dave Starr, who was sort of the wacky tickle producer in a NASA hat during COVID, he passed away.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of sort of weird watching it back now because you sort of go, oh, some of these people aren't here, which is just an odd aspect to it.
How many other guys who were involved in the videos did you reach out to who said, I don't want to do this?
Oh, most of them.
Most of them.
Yeah.
How were you getting in touch with these people?
Mostly through Facebook. So part of what David D'Amato would do is he'd set up these websites to sort of out the people when he sort of turned on them. And so we had a lot of people's names and details because David D'Amato had doxed them. And so we found a lot of them that way, and then a few of them just through Facebook. But most people were like, absolutely not. Like, they were either embarrassed or didn't want to, or we couldn't find them, or they just didn't get back to us.
Did anyone reach out to you once it came out?
Lots of people.
Yeah.
People still do.
Oh, wow.
They'll come across Tickled. Because I think Tickled came on Netflix maybe 6 months ago. Yeah. And so a batch of new people being like, oh, I was in a video, or he was my teacher, or lots of that kind of stuff.
Wow.
We had one guy who'd kept all...
Yeah, here you're seeing the names.
Yeah, there they
TJ,
are. Yeah, so like TJ was everywhere.
Wow.
And he was, he was nervous, but he was also, in the end, he was like, no, I want to kind of explain what happened and give context to these videos that are all over the internet and explain like what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
it's still, those videos are so, there's something about these videos that are so, I think it's the Adidas gear they're all in. It was just such an odd vibe. And he did, obviously, like, he was trying to trick people to coming to competitive endurance tickling. And I think in David DeBato's mind, if you make everyone wear Adidas gear, it kind of makes it legitimate somehow.
It's a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're not in their, like, slacks. It's like, this could be a sport. It's fine.
It's not weird anymore.
It's not
Yeah.
weird anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there are also a lot of these videos where it does feel like the person is going to be killed in this video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot where I'm like, this feels like
Yeah.
a snuff video, and it's like, I shouldn't be watching this.
Yeah, some of the stuff from the MMA guys when they're tickling each other in hotel rooms on a bed, that feels like, oh, we're going to get murdered. That's a different tone. Whereas, the newer stuff, this competitive endurance tickling, was newer and like slicker,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the way he'd get people in.
Do you remember who did the Debbie and Jane voices?
Oh, yeah, that was like it was like a Facebook update from me going like, anyone here got an American accent?
Yeah.
And
That's funny.
it was a couple. It was a friend and then a friend of a friend that turned up.
It's a
and did
great
it.
voice. Like, it
It's
is like threatening, and but also like charming. It's a very interesting voice.
It was
I
probably
like
my
it.
first time like directing someone else like in the voice booth to being like, okay, be more shitty. Like, can you sound like more angry and snarky? Coming from a person that had never done that before. Yeah, those accents. My God.
Have you seen any of the guys since this? Like, any of the guys who were working with David?
No.
That was it?
No,
That was
I
just-
haven't.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think now. No, only some of them emailed me. Like Kevin, when the film came out, Kevin and Marco communicated for a while. But in person, I haven't seen them again.
Would you like to? Because we have a surprise.
Imagine. I wonder what that fourth microphone is for. No, I haven't, and I don't really want to.
Yeah.
I feel like this world is kind of feels like it's in the past now. Which
Are
is
you
good.
tired of talking about it?
It's
drops
fun.
the mic.
It's fun to talk about. I feel really proud of this film. I feel, I think we made something really special, and I feel really proud of it because so many documentaries are just retelling a story that has been told before. It's like they bought the rights to a New Yorker piece, or it's from a book, or it's and that's amazing. But I feel really proud that this is just this new story that no one knew about. We sort of put it together in real time, and here it is.
And at no point could you tell what the next scene was going to be.
No.
That's hard.
Yeah,
really hard.
it was kind of wild.
Yeah.
So I feel proud of it, and it's fun to talk about, and people are still discovering it, which is really cool as well.
Yeah, I went in totally cold when I saw it. I don't think I'd seen the trailer. My friend brought me, my friend Casey Miko and I went. It was the Sunshine Cinemas in New York.
Oh wow!
I want to say it was opening weekend. It was pretty early.
Wait, so how did you hear it? Because I was so curious.
I
about
think
who
she
found
had
it.
seen the trailer.
The trailer. Yeah, the trailer helped us. It was
But
a good trailer.
Yeah, but she said to me, "You can watch this or you can avoid it." And I said, I would so much rather avoid it,
Wow.
which is sort of my thing with movies now, I think, at this point, unless it's like a freaking Marvel movie or something that, like, doesn't
Yeah.
matter if I see the trailer, If it's something like this, I'm like, I would rather go in cold. You sold me on the log line. Like, I don't want to know anything, you know?
Patrick, what did you think was going to be the crux of the movie? Like the point of the
I
movie?
think I just thought it was going to be, hey, isn't this weird that there's a tickling
Right.
competition? Isn't it funny? Isn't it silly? Isn't it quirky?
I still think about this sometimes because I think Tickled was just the title we sat on. And I think it was sort of a blessing and a curse because I think a lot of people didn't go or don't want to see it still because they're like, I don't really want to see like a tickling fetish film.
Yes, totally.
It's like it's fine. We know
yeah,
some people
yeah,
tickle.
yeah.
I wish we had like a title that was a bit more that sold the true crime kind of angle. But it's also the fun thing about it is people do stumble into it
Mhm.
thinking it's going to be something dumb and nothing. Yeah. And then it turns dark and it's a genuine surprise.
Did you have other titles that you were working with, or was that?
We had the Tickle King, which we ended up calling the sequel. It was always going to be the Tickle King, but then we sort of thought that made it too obvious that it was a guy behind it, and we did want to keep up the illusion that it was some females involved. This was why we flew to LA, because we knew there was a tickling shoot happening.
Right.
How
And
did
this
you know?
is
How
where-
did you know that?
So we
Let's
had
back up
we
a
had
little bit.
do sound crazy talking about this. We had leaked emails from one of the ticklees who was on
Uh-huh.
our side.
Oh,
so
wow.
we had but they'd been kicked out already.
Okay.
So we only had a date. We didn't know the location. Dylan did some amazing magic where we only had photos of the inside of the tickling studio. So Dylan basically went on Google Maps, pulled up every photography studio that you could rent in LA, went through on the map, and you know how when you go into Google Maps you get little images
Sure.
like that. So
Yeah.
he went through until he found a match of the inside of this. So it took
That's
like
ingenious.
a week for him manually finding where the studio
That
was.
moment of finding it though must be so vindicating for him,
Oh.
where he's like, "Oh my God, this is it."
No,
you know?
Dylan is like low-key genius with
Yes.
stuff like this. And
Yeah.
so the fact we even knew where this was happening was this really complicated process of Dylan like just going through a whole lot of crazy admin. And when we were out, so we were parked across the street in this like the biggest minivan we could rent at LAX, where we could like fit our gear and we could have a tripod locked off in the back. And we had we were so nervous in that car.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like we thought someone's going to walk past and see us.
Of course.
We're freaking out. We were pissing in bottles. This where we finally go in. We are so nervous.
Of course.
We had 2 cameras. Both cameramen double button when we went in, so none of those 2 cameras on the shoulders are not shooting right now. The
Oh, no.
only shot you're seeing
Oh,
is
no.
from a GoPro that is strapped to the top of our second camera.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So if we didn't have
Oh.
that GoPro going, none of this would exist.
What a nightmare.
Yeah, no, so nervous that both Dylan and the guy we were shooting with on this first trip double buttoned.
How funny we have to
So those 2
U-turn.
cameras you can see not rolling, nothing.
Pointless. But it would be great if you had to U-turn and go, could you guys do this again?
Yeah,
like
sorry.
please one more time.
Just
Oh
gently
my
knock.
God.
You know, it gives me the heebie-jeebies watching this back about how close we were to it being a complete failure. And you know, it's this weird thing where we had so many legal threats. The thing our lawyers had told us is you can't go inside. So I watched this confrontation and I feel so sort of pathetic because I'm scared, and I basically say, "Hey guys," and that's all we get. There's no questions. There's
Right.
nothing. So that scene for me is it worked, but also it could have been so much better. But we were so scared.
Well, why
Man.
wouldn't
So
you be?
is
You don't
there
know what's gonna
anyone-
happen.
Is there anyone else in the van, or is it the 3 of you and that's it?
It was me, Dylan, our second shooter. Those are 3 of us.
Okay.
And how long did you stake out before they came?
We were there for probably 6 hours
Wow.
outside.
I mean, so much of this movie is waiting,
So much waiting.
right?
So
It's
much
just
waiting.
that's
yeah,
the majority
end
of
is more waiting.
I wonder
But-
I wonder if that lady knows she's in this movie.
we
Probably
had
not.
we had
right?
someone
It's on her resume.
Yeah.
that
It's on her
that
headshot.
scene. So we'd shot a car crash.
Uh-huh.
In the edit, we show that footage while I'm giving like a voiceover about how like everything about Dangerous.
Yeah.
We were doing a Q&A in New Zealand, and someone put their hand up and like, "How did you know that car crash was going to happen when you were having that thought?" And I had to sort of explain
Oh,
like how
boy.
voiceover works.
I'm just gonna cross out one question I had. Hold
So
on.
but I love that. I forget that some people. Yeah, it's fun. They watch films and there's
Sure.
you don't know how it's constructed. They're so in it. They're like, "Oh no, David had that thought as he's watching that car
So
crash."
funny.
Remarkable.
You'd be pretty deep though if you did come up with that on the spot.
Not capable of being that deep.
The whole plot of that movie changes, though.
Yeah.
If you're like
Oh,
having that
shit.
thought and you cause a car crash, we're like, no, this is about you now, David.
This
I'm
is
so
about
sorry.
Superpowers.
We're not
now.
talking about Jane anymore.
This is Richard Ivy, who is like the good tickler, and he was just. We just wanted to show that tickling the fetish was fine,
Sure.
not to shame it.
Seems like a nice guy.
He's so nice.
Yes.
I've seen him, and I've caught up with him in Florida. Him and his husband, and Richard. He's awesome. I also follow him on it's called X now,
Uh-huh.
Twitter, whatever,
Mhm.
where he posts his like tickling videos. So occasionally it's like timeline, naked man with an erection tied down being tickled by my friend Richard.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, that's what you do.
That's a part of your life.
But he's so mellow that it just creates this really intense stuff.
What did he think of the movie when he saw it?
He loved it.
Oh, that's great.
He was really
Okay.
happy. Yeah, he came to a few of our Q&A sessions when we released it, and he was like, just so glad to be taking part.
I guess now it kind of also made him a superstar in the tickling community.
Yeah.
So people will send him
Sure.
stuff. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. More people will find his website
Right.
because of this film.
So in a way, the one Tickle King has passed, but maybe the new Tickle King has been crowned.
He is arrived.
He's the benevolent Tickle King.
Yeah, and he's
the
like,
nice
and he's
one.
a really good human.
Yes.
Who
yes.
doesn't harass his models after the fact. But he was just so matter of fact about it all. He was so low key, and here he is just editing his bunch of nudes. He's a lovely dude.
What did you guys cut from this?
There were a few scenes we couldn't use because we were probably naughty to shoot them, so we're on legally dicey ground. So we cut some things like that. But most of it, honestly, because the shooting schedule was so tight, most of what we shot scene-wise made it in. There were just a couple of things we had to drop because they were like legally dicey, and we knew that we were releasing a film about a guy who had lawyers and had millions of dollars. Like, he was literally like a person you can't ignore in that way. So yeah, the legal fees around Tickled were like probably as big as our budget again. Like, it was, we just had to make this thing so watertight, and we just had binders of evidence. So everything we allege as like a throwaway line on screen just has like binders of evidence behind it, because we had to think about it. Like, what if we have to present this in court? We have to defend it. It can't just be a hunch. It has to be backed up.
That's so fascinating.
Did you buy the shirt at the airport?
I did.
Okay. I like it. It constantly reminds me where you are.
Yeah, I just want to make it really
Yeah,
obvious.
I like it.
You know, instead of like title cards, Florida. Just where we are.
Do you still have it?
I do have it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's in a drawer somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, this guy Chase, he was great. He was a bartender who would just do these shoots occasionally for Richard and get tickled on camera.
Was there
all of our crew got tied down into this tickling chair and got tickled by Richard.
This
Wow.
is where you actually all had to do it with
Yep.
this gentleman.
Yeah. So when he left, we all had to go, and it was horrific.
You didn't like it at all.
It's awful. Like,
Okay.
being
Yeah, I'd
tickled
imagine.
when you can't get away. I'm on myfriendsfeet.com. There's a tickling video of me.
Sure.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
fully clothed. But I'm being tickled by him for about 5 minutes. And he sells that clip.
He sells
so
it.
funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Good for
Okay.
him.
Oh, and this is how good he is. Whenever he sells my clip, he puts it aside for charity.
Oh, that's
Oh,
nice.
that's good.
He's pure.
That's really
He's so
nice.
pure.
Was there a backup plan if you went on that first trip and you were like, this isn't going to happen? We're not going to.
No backup.
No
plan.
backup plan. It was
And I
just,
think with documentary, you can't think that way. You just have to like go all in. But in saying that, we'd done so much research. Like, we had an idea of where things would go.
what surprised you? Was there anything that you didn't know that you found out?
Oh my God. I mean, the biggest surprise in the whole thing was when we knew that David D'Amato had like a mirror of his hard drive that was accessible via a website,
Mm-hmm.
but you could only see the directory structure. So it occasionally would go to that and just look at the folder names and
Sure.
fantasize about what was in them.
Sure.
And then in the edit, one day I was talking to Simon Coldrick, who cut this. I was ranting and raving to him about how there is this drive where David D'Amato has essentially mirrored his hard drive. It's all there. If only we could get in. And Simon's like, what does it look like? And I type it in while he's in the edit and click enter. It flashes up. I click on a thing and it opens.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I don't know what, like, I didn't understand, like, technically what D'Amato had changed that made it publicly accessible or why he would do that. But I called Dylan. I was like, Dylan, I'm with Simon. The drive is public.
Oh my God.
Get it all. Dylan just immediately at his job, he just like had a spare drive and just like started downloading it all and got his and that helped us with the release, because then we had evidence of, he had everything. He had his credit cards with his fake personas. He had all the it basically linked David D'Amato absolutely to all of this. Like, a lot of it was a hunch and we knew through emails, but that gave us like legally everything we needed.
When do you think he found out that you were doing this? He being David.
Probably that first, like, that it was a film.
Yeah.
That's such a good question, because he, in his mind, I was a journalist probably doing a news story.
Sure.
I think he probably knew there was a film when it got announced at Sundance.
Oh wow.
I think in his mind, I was like a very well-resourced New Zealand reporter who wouldn't let the story go.
So what did you say for that Kickstarter, the initial Kickstarter? How did you talk about this story without spoiling stuff?
No, actually, that's a really good point. We said we were going to make a short documentary.
Okay.
So David D'Amato, that's actually such a good question. Maybe,
But you probably wouldn't have named him in it, right?
no, he knew that we're making something about him.
Okay.
I don't think he had a concept that it was a feature film that was going to be shown in cinemas in America.
Sure.
I think he thought, here's a guy from New Zealand making a project.
Yeah.
He
And I
didn't
should
donate.
stop
He
him.
didn't donate to the Kickstarter.
Not that I know of.
That'd be amazing.
We kept an eye out. That would be incredible. Yeah, he gets a producer credit as well.
So mixed feelings when it's
Stephen
Fry
Fry and David D'Amato.
Whose name do you put first there?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this thing's been compromised.
So do you think when he made all that stuff public, do you think he knew that you were gonna fight? Like,
Dylan and I talked about this. Like, is this a guy that wanted to be caught?
Of course,
Was he
yeah.
self-destructive? He did. David D'Amato would do very smart things, and then occasionally he'd also do really dumb things. I
Mhm.
mean, that's kind of how he got caught back in the day when he was like mail bombing universities, and the FBI got involved in like trying to find out who this like internet rogue was.
who is this woman in this photo?
Yeah, so
These are all the questions I wanted to ask
I
for
know.
a decade. Can you tell?
We tried to find out. We did find out after the fact. She got in touch with somebody saying, "This is me."
Wow.
And assume she's telling the truth.
Sure. Yeah.
But at the time, we didn't know. We just assumed it would be someone from a yearbook.
Oh, okay.
Dylan recreated all these old interfaces.
They look great.
And he did a really good job. Like, it's pretty authentic. Like, you see some stuff like that in movies on screen where it's like clearly playing in like the wrong player or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dylan did a pretty good job with this stuff.
I mean,
for
these
sure.
are the videos that you think someone is going to get shot in the back
Yep.
of the head. Like,
Oh,
these are the ones where you're like, I don't know about this.
Feels bad.
Feels
right?
bad.
Yeah.
I like Dave.
Oh, Dave Starr, rest in peace. Yeah. He was he was good.
He was very helpful, it seemed. It seemed
He
like
was.
he gave you a lot of stuff.
This is where planning really helps, because at this point when we met him, we all knew it was David D'Amato. Sure. But when interviewing him, he'd keep saying he did this, he did that. But we knew that where this would come in the film, we would also think it's a she. So we constantly had to just rephrase. There's the one bit where I directed talent to say things or repeat things and be like, just don't say he. Can you refer to them as Debbie?
Right.
Because if we hadn't done that, it would have been a hell interview to cut
Yes.
into the film.
We got some nice Scientologists here sitting on.
Scientology.
I never noticed that until last night when I was rewatching.
Love the Wookiee.
Yes. So how did you find Dave?
Oh, God. He was... I'm trying to think. I think his name was like credited on some of the videos.
Wow.
He was like listed there.
Wow.
He's a very well-written character. I know he's a real person.
Yes.
He is so interesting. Everything he says is great.
Yes.
I love him.
Yeah, he's got a way about him,
Yep.
doesn't he? He did quite an amazing thing when it was going around. So it did Sundance, and then it just played a bunch of festivals. He'd occasionally turn up at festivals and say he was the director. And so there's a few photos of him as Dave Starr, Tickled director, at some smaller film festivals. Good on him.
Yeah, good for him.
He was dining out on it. I mean, this is where you think someone's going to get shot.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, these audition videos that he'd then send to Debbie Kun or whoever was the current persona.
I mean, this is also a legal question, but like, obviously you're blurring this guy. You're not blurring other ones. What is the difference between this guy and...
It was basically how public they already were.
Okay.
Like, these videos were completely private. These were on a drive that we got from somewhere. But yeah, it was a big debate we had, and it was mainly around those competitive endurance tickling Adidas stuff. They were just so prevalent everywhere.
Okay.
We legally were safe to use them, and ethically I felt safe doing it because we were giving context to what these videos were. So
It's so wild. So how long did you film? Sorry, I'm just.
No,
You get sucked in
sometimes
while you're
I do
watching
just
it.
Start watching again. Yeah.
How long did you film with him? Was it just a single day?
It was a day. We had a day with
Wow.
him. Yeah. We met downtown, not far away from the Tickling studio, and just drove around with him. And we did that scene driving with him, and then we do a scene in a little bit where he gets all the threatening letters out of the back
Mhm.
of his car.
Mm-hmm.
This was another tickling ring David D'Amato specifically had in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
There were two big things we didn't get into the film, and that was that he had a whole big tickling ring set up in Hawaii with surfers.
Oh,
And he also had the US military. He had some of the barracks tickling.
Oh, sequel. That's a sequel.
Yeah, Tickled 2. Yeah,
Tickled
so-
goes Hawaiian.
Yeah, Tickled goes Hawaiian. Oh my god. He's got such a great face, doesn't
He
he?
really
He
does.
does.
The
And he has
eyebrows.
one little spot that he didn't shave. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've ever noticed that.
I've
It's
noticed
just-
it. Oh, I've noticed it, all right.
Yeah.
My
It
god,
adds to
hours
it.
in that edit.
So it had
workaholic shout-out.
we got a nice Workaholics cameo in the back right there for the Workaholics
Oh my
TV show.
god.
Did the radio interview that you were just playing?
Yeah.
Did he have that, or did you guys find that somewhere?
He had that.
He had that.
He had
okay.
archived a bunch of stuff. He'd kept all the letters. I mean, that's the joy making something like this where you're dealing with something in the 90s. Most people chuck everything out.
Yeah.
A few people collecting shit is like a gift from heaven. And he'd kept all these letters. He'd kept a bunch of files, which was great.
What was the biggest difference making this versus making like either a short or a piece for the news or something, like beyond the scale of work?
It was just the arc of what I had to learn and Dylan had to learn, and we learned this together. Is just the beats of a 90-minute story, and we pretty much stole the beats out of like every big Hollywood film of your all those things you've got to get to, including all hope is lost and all those typical moments that you hit. 3-act structure, all that.
This setting for this interview.
And also just the NASA hat.
Yeah,
There's-
the
there's
NASA
so
hat's
much to
great.
love.
Was
Yeah.
that a hotel that you were
That
on,
was
or-
like
the
a
Roosevelt?
rooftop. Yeah, I think it probably was.
Yeah.
It was. We rang around like 5 hotels. One of them let us shoot for like a rate we could afford. It's like, we've got $500. We can pay for that. Can we have 3 hours? LA is good like that. If you call enough people, someone will just be like, yeah, do it between
Right.
these hours, as long as you're in and out in time. Go for it.
This is a beautiful looking documentary. I remember in the Tickle King, he accidentally says choreography is beautiful. He meant cinematography, correct? But he's correct. It's a beautiful looking.
Yeah, it's all Dom Fryer. So
It's wonderful.
he was my DP on this. He shot Mr. Organ. He shot most of Dark Tourist. He's my guy. Yeah. He's so thoughtful. And Dom is one of those people that's also so incredibly good with talent. Like, people, it's frustrating at times because the talent ends up liking him more than me. And I'm like, talk to me now. Stop talking to Dom. But no, Dom he really cares, and he has an amazing eye. And that was the other main difference between shooting news and this. It's like, I had to learn how to create something that would sit on a cinema screen and
It
be
has a
cinematic.
style. It has a real style to it.
Yeah, and that's all Dom. Like, I can't take credit for that. He
You
just
can take
came in
credit.
and
He's not here.
helped.
He's not.
Take
We didn't
credit.
ask
Yeah,
him to
fuck
be
you,
here. We
Tom.
asked- yeah.
Fuck you, Dom.
this
He's a
is
piece
a-
of shit.
This is a dumb production question, but I've always wondered this.
No,
What
please.
could you-
camera?
Yeah, what's a camera? What's a cinematographer? No, you're filming that guy right there, not on the screen currently, but the interview that you were just doing.
Yeah, secret.
His face is blacked out.
Yeah.
Is that completely lighting, or is that post that you're
It's a
adding
bit of both.
lot of
so
that?
it's
Yeah.
lighting.
Okay.
But then in post, you crank it a bit. Because, the last thing you want is someone like running it through some software
What a
and bumping the
stupid
face
question. Just a
It
stupid
is a
question.
stupid question, but it
It's
is.
so
I'm
dumb. No, it's
curious. Yeah.
out. Yeah, it's mostly lighting. Like, you want it to be so lighting does most of the job.
Yeah. I
Oh,
love
he's
that.
had such a good giggle on him.
That's a computer desktop background right there.
You know?
That shot.
It just falls over.
Perfect. It was such like an overcast grey day.
I bet he told all his friends about this movie. Like, he's like not only posing as a director at times, but I bet he sent copies for the holidays.
No, he was proud of it. He was happy. His pants are so tight.
And the hat is very loose. The
Yeah.
hat, his head does not fill the hat.
He was also a Disney adult, so he spent a lot of time
Of
at Disney.
course he
Is that a
is.
surprise for you?
No.
Oh, I love that
Yeah,
detail.
of course he's a Disney adult.
Wait, how did you come across this doc? How did you watch it? Do you remember?
No.
No.
And then I watched it again this week, but no, I don't remember.
Okay.
How did you come across this doc? Let's change the subject.
It's my old dictaphone that I had when I was in journalism school. Use that as a prop. But we can use this.
Yeah. Saves money.
Saves.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
What do you think you learned? This is a kind of a big question.
Here we go.
What do you think you But I think I think it's an interesting question.
Mhm.
What do you think you learned about people from making this doc?
Oh god.
So deep.
that is a really good question. I think I learned that people can be like a lot of different things, and this it sounds very obvious, but I think after years in news, I'd kind of become a bit like you have good guys and you have bad guys,
Mhm.
and in this, I just felt like it was a reminder that people, it's the whole thing. Like there's just so much that makes up a person, and some of these people have such. The other thing is just how much money drives people as well.
Sure.
It's like all these people got drawn into this world because, and the cast of characters is so diverse. You've got the most athletic MMA fighters and footballers, and then you've got like twink porn producers. You've got a photographer from San Francisco. You've got Dave Starr that was desperately trying to be a director of commercials. All these people are sucked in because of money, and it's such a big driving force, and that was a big reinforced thing. Yeah. But also, just how complex people are. And I think David D'Amato, I've learned that kind of after the film came out. I've learned more about sort of his life, and they are all such complex people.
Sure. This scene is so dark, but also darkly funny, and you have one of the funniest line readings in it. It's at the end.
I'm trying to remember what this is now.
It's talking about his brother who died.
And it starts with a poem.
It starts with
it's a big hit at the end, right?
Yeah, you say what is
it's
it?
like there's so many lines like hairy, hook-nosed, and horny, like all these horrific.
That would have been a good alternate title too.
Oh, what? Okay, we're gonna rename it. The poems were so kind of funny and lighthearted, and then they'd suddenly be like, they'll be dead too, and all these crazy threats.
You just have you say this is cruel, and then it cuts off at the end.
Oh, I thought that's not.
Yeah,
really?
it's this right here.
Yeah.
Edward Starr dead. This is really cruel, right? And it's like, it's.
Oh yeah, and he's just like it ends quickly, right?
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
nothing.
It's just it's.
I
wild.
know that grabbed you. That's so funny.
I was watching it last night.
I know
and it
that
made
cut.
me
I know
laugh
it's like
so much.
it is like an unusual bit of
And the podcast
audio.
the same way.
Where do you think he got the names from? The Terry DeSisto, the Jane O'Brien's.
No
fairly-
idea.
No idea.
No idea where the names
Yeah.
are listed from. He had certain things he used. I think he banked with TD Bank because it was the same initials as Terry DeSisto. He did weird little things like that.
Wow.
This diner. Where is this diner? This is in Eagle Rock.
It looks great.
Yeah, God, what's it called? It's a great diner. We were also panicking for a location for this guy, because the one thing I learned in documentary is that I was so getting the characters, nailing them down was one thing, and then I was like, fuck, we need to shoot this somewhere that's not a hotel room. Yes. And so
here we go. Cindy's
It was
restaurant.
Cindy's
Thank
restaurant.
you so much.
Beautiful place, and they let us shoot in a corner on a. They were amazing, and they saved our butts. Honestly.
And it was not closed down.
No.
Those people in there were
They just said stay in the corner. I think they didn't even want money. We gave them
Oh, wow.
something,
Wow.
but they saved our butts on that day.
That's amazing.
and it was such a great place to shoot.
What is it when you're in the room in Florida? This is going back a little bit, and you're watching the guy get tickled. What is your reaction in that moment?
It's
Is it awkward? Is it weird?
It's
Or-
awkward. It is
yeah.
awkward.
Gotta be kind of excited too that it's going to be good in the movie.
We knew it was good stuff.
Right.
Like we were shooting that in slow mo. It's like we knew we had our scene. It's also funny.
Yeah.
Because when you're watching someone that he's laughing, being tickled, it's sort of outrageous. So you're kind of laughing as well. Yeah. but I'm also feeling sorry for him because I know it's like painful. And it's just, you feel like it's a little bit like you're at the zoo. Yeah. It's like you're looking at something and you're observing it like you're looking at a chimp or something. You know, you're like, here's someone being tickled. It's the same kind of feeling.
Are there moments when you're talking to people that you're like, this is a trailer line? Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Hal gave us a trailer line about when like the system went offline.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I think it's this scene actually. Hal gave us some really good ones. And there's moments where you know you've got your scene. It's like, you know, you can stop shooting and you've got everything you need. Debbie was the other journalist that wasn't in the plan. We had something fall over in New York and we found her. She got back to us the previous day and she lived in Philadelphia. And we're like, we will drive to Philly and interview you. Yeah. And she was great because her interview bounced with Hal's so well. And it was also, it's like this whole film is like a sausage fest. It's all men. And it was actually just really nice having a woman in the mix. Yeah. Like that was, we needed that. These are my two friends from the newsroom. That's Ali and Adrian. And that's a YMCA facility we're in. And we're like, we need you to wear suits. You're going to be FBI agents. And we shot in a couple of different ways. We shot one on the sticks. We shot this one just following them. We honestly, we barely did any recreations. Yeah. Because also I'm not a dramatic director. I didn't know what I was doing. But this is like one of the few dramatic recreations we did. And I just got, we were working in the newsroom that day. I'm like, are you guys working on a story? Mm-hmm. Just come and shoot this thing for me. Amazing. And yeah, got it done then.
Have you ever thought about being a dramatic director?
I've thought about it, but I've thought about it, but I've thought not beyond that.
Okay, beyond it.
It's like I don't have confidence in there. I'm terrible with story when it's not reality. Mm-hmm. The idea of making things up, so hard.
Has anyone ever approached you about turning this into a dramatic movie?
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
It's something we've toyed with at times because it is a whole world that you could treat, I think, in a variety of really interesting ways.
I agree. And the characters are all
the characters are there, and there's also, it's something we've toyed with. There's also so many things we couldn't get in the film, like the military stuff, and you know what happened after the film. Yeah, sure. There could be something in there.
Oh, there you go.
Cindy's.
Look at that car.
Highly recommended. We don't have diners in New Zealand.
I mean, we barely have diners in LA anymore.
Don't have diners really?
No, we don't have them. That's not a thing.
What is the equivalent? Is there anything?
We have like dive bars.
Okay.
Which is equivalent emotion kind of, but we don't have booths.
Sure. Wow. That's so weird.
Oh, I like. We have Denny's. Is Denny's a diner?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Denny's is our one diner, and it's also like one of like the few weird American chains in that sort of space.
The only booth in New Zealand in the
that's a good
Denny's.
name for an independent movie too. I like that.
It is really good.
That's so interesting. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think New Zealanders would love a diner. Yeah. Like we would love the vibe. It just hasn't happened.
You guys want to open a diner?
I'd open a diner if you want to get some investment together.
All right.
I'm down. His letters were so silly.
Yeah.
Like the all caps.
Yeah. Do you think he... I mean, it's a weird thought, but like, is he just playing a character here? Is this him? Like, does he realize that this is going to real people, or does he think he wants to be the puppet master? I don't know how to phrase the exact question that I have.
No, I think I think when he was pretending to be Terry and writing these letters to boys, I think he thought he was doing a really good act. Sure. Even though it was terrible, and you read those letters and they're so off and they're so weird. I think he got in character. Yeah. He was like, what would a young woman say if she wanted tickling content?
Did you ever hear what he was like as a principal?
After the movie came out. So we tried so hard during production to find students, but we just, with the timeline we were on, we just sort of didn't really get there. But after the film came out, met a couple of people, and people had sort of two different experiences. They either had this really caring scheduler he was like the terminology is different in America. He was a guidance counselor, but I understand he basically mostly looked after scheduling and making sure kids got into the right classes and were happy. Okay. But people either had a really good experience with him, or they found him like really weird and standoffy.
Sure.
There was one kid we heard from who was getting letters from Terry DeSisto wanting to be in tickling videos, whilst David D'Amato was their teacher.
Oh
Okay,
boy.
Well,
So that was a
Oh, boy.
pretty intense overlap
Yeah.
for them. Yeah, and they only found out about that after they'd watched Tickled. They didn't know that
Oh,
was the
boy.
situation.
Oh, wow.
And they got in touch and they had all the letters that Terry had sent.
I feel
Still.
pretty confident in saying that's something he should not have been doing as a principal.
I would agree.
Right? I think
Yeah,
I feel
I think
okay.
I
just-
think there's a line crossed.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have been doing that. Yeah, that was
agree
bad.
to disagree, you guys. Wow. Yeah.
I
that's
support it.
horrible.
Are you okay being the guy that everyone thinks of when they think of tickling?
It's fine. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's a fun thing. The one thing that is quite funny that is in this that I'm bisexual, right? In this film, very early on, he accuses me of being like the homosexual journalist, and I just never correct it in the film. Like there was never I just didn't think about it. I was like, that's fine. So there was a thing that still happens where like a lot of people assume I'm gay, which is fine, but because of Tickled, I am a gay man, and that's like the Bible on it. And so that was quite a funny thing. So after this film, I got a lot of people like a lot of guys sliding into my DMs being like, "What's up?" because of Tickled. Which again, it's fine, it's great, but it's just I never really thought at the time to like put a line in being like, actually, homosexual isn't how I would describe myself. It's just like
It's a lot
that
more
was what
complicated.
he,
Yeah.
you know, that's what David D'Amato threw at me,
Wow.
and that's what annoyed him.
It also said he should be allowed to attend law school in September 2001. Probably a
Yeah.
weird time to be going to law school in New
Oh,
York at that
right,
point,
yeah.
right? That's
Oh yeah, God.
I just saw that right there on that letter.
I hadn't really thought of the timeline of events.
Huh.
God, Hal was good. Hal is such a good storyteller. He is it a podcast episode? He does these storytelling events, and I think some of them being recorded, and they're worth listening to.
Do you think in 2024 or 2025, whatever time we're in at the moment, are you more or less likely to take on dangerous stories than you would have been in 2014, 2015? Dangerous in quotes, you know?
I think slightly less. I think when you're, I was so fired up and wanted to get into some muck. I think I'm a little bit more content now, and maybe like less. The idea of my life blowing up over some legal problems is maybe a bit more of a reason to like not dive in. In saying that, I do like a good bit of drama. Sometimes I'm pretty ADHD, so I like stimulation, and I may still dive in. This was she was so fun. This is one of these like fun things when you interview someone where the person you're interviewing is discovering stuff, and it just creates such a fun shift, because interviews are usually boring. They're sort of talking about something that's happened in the past, whereas at this moment she's clocking that he was in prison at the time he was claiming to have mono, and it's just fun watching her. She's clocking this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her face just comes alive. It's just it's a fun moment. Her husband is an amazing artist, so we're shooting in like their like workspace.
It's a really
which is
cool background.
So awesome.
It's always nice when you were able to find a spot that like looks cool in the background.
We walked
you know,
in there and we're like, this
this is it.
That's
this
what I'm
is
talking
fine.
about. Every interview has dimension in the background. It's all colorful. It's beautiful.
She's so excited.
Yeah, no, she's great.
It's so great.
And we're kept in touch. I mean, she's a Facebook friend.
Are there people that you're talking to in this where, I mean, what is your reaction to talking to some of these people? Are you depressed? Are you sad about the things they went through? Or are you like, this is a good story, so I'm okay here? You know what I mean?
With this, I mean, I'm lucky in that like no one's died. It's like it's bleak, but it's not too bleak. So mostly my mind at these moments are sort of ticking off story points and going, this is an amazing story. It's amazing I'm even hearing this. And so that Dylan and I are sick of each other at this point. sick to death of each other. But yeah, mostly just kind of amazed that I'm even there in the first place.
Did you guys get sick of each other as it went on?
We actually amazingly didn't.
Yeah, because you're so new
Like,
to each other too. It
yeah,
could have
we
gone
are
very
like
wrong.
when you friend. No, we sort of bonded over this, and we, I couldn't have made this without Dylan, and I think we were so in it. Like we were so determined to like get David on camera, solve the riddle, figure out what was going on. It was just, I'll never have a project I work on that went this exciting, happened so quickly, and worked. Like not many things in this film fell over. Like it just all kind of flowed.
Sure.
Including, you know, like submitting to festivals, like getting into Sundance. Like that was, we couldn't believe it. Like all of that was insane. Worst part of shooting is just your gear.
Sure.
Were you hiring local crews for anything, or were you guys all just traveling
No, it was
together?
all Dom. Yeah, it was all Dom,
it was just,
and our sound guy, Cam Leonard.
Wow.
It was just us the whole time. Yeah, super small team. Me and Dylan and Dom and Cam. That was it.
How involved in the edit were you?
I was in there. I was in there each day. I mean, Simon Coldrick. I mean, I couldn't have done it without him. He has such a good. Because you make the film in the edit, right? That's the thing. And it was Simon. We went in with like broad story beats of how we would get from here to here to here to here. Simon would be cutting from 9 in the morning. I'd join him from 9 till 2, and then at 2 o'clock I'd go in and do my job in the newsroom, which was that late night news show. So I'd sit with him, bring him coffee every day. We'd talk stuff over. But Simon made this shit pop. And it's that thing I witnessed that I hadn't seen before, where it was just like a horrific, it's horrible watching rough cuts and just watching the assemblies. I was like, we've failed. Like this, no one will watch this. And then that last 10%, when it's fixed and smooth, suddenly you've got your doc. Like there it is. And you're like, holy shit, like this is working.
Who did the music for it?
Rhodey Kirk. He's a musician that was based in Germany at the time. He was in Berlin. He's a Kiwi. So it was him scoring some of it and a bunch of music libraries, because as is often the case, like the thing we hadn't assigned money for was music. So yeah, and I also did the thing where we temped with music I loved, and ripping that stuff out was like really hard.
Did the Sundance cut have all the music you loved?
Oh my god, no! We knew we had to take it out.
Okay.
Like I'd tempt it with a bunch of like Trent Reznor's like music, which was so atmospheric, but it just couldn't get it for actual use.
Was the Sundance cut this cut, or did things change after Sundance?
This was the cut. They pretty much got the final.
Okay.
We were in pretty good shape by the time we submitted. This was such a weird. Muskegon was such a just small, struggling town, and going to this MMA match was my first and only MMA. Have you been to an MMA?
I have never been. I've never watched one.
Yeah,
it was a vibe, and this was like, it felt so sort of desperate, and to me it was a bad vibe in here. And we went along and we shot there, and the promoter let us shoot there. We were pretty vague on what we were shooting. I mean, I didn't bust in and say we're making a film about a tickling fetishist.
Yeah.
But this was a case where after the film came out, we got a bunch of letters from lawyers basically saying, give us money from people that had been wronged. And one of the people that had threatened us saying, give me money was whoever was promoting that fight.
Oh wow!
Because they were like, oh my god, this documentary's on HBO. These people are millionaires.
Yeah, they must
give us a cut,
of course.
And you write back to them and sort of shut that stuff down. But some people did try it on, and this was one of them. And
also, it makes sense being in this town. Like he's talking about how this town is so poor and there's so much crime and so much. Like they need the money, So I'm sure they're like, let's try it.
Yeah, I mean, these MMA fighters, I mean, it was pretty.
They're so young looking.
They're young, and it felt like they weren't experienced. They were just doing this.
They were just fighting each other. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a strange place to be. But it also, Jordan. And then this strange thing happened when Tickled came out, where Jordan made a series of videos saying that we'd lied and made the whole thing up.
Yeah.
And the videos, I think they're still online if you search for Tickled Lies or maybe Jordan Tickled on YouTube, you get him, and he's so clearly being directed on what
Right.
to say. It's
in-
like a hostage
Is
video.
it in Tickled King?
Is it?
A
There's
little
some
bit of
shots
those
Is it
videos.
in the Tickled King?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god!
There's
you're
like
right,
shots
so
of
long ago
him
now.
being deposed. It looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, he's being
yeah,
he's
yeah.
being told what
Yeah,
to say.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my god! I forgot.
Do you think
Yeah, it's in the
David
follow-up.
paid him? I mean, we could talk about this during Tickle King
Yeah,
too,
right?
but like,
Oh, I would say to make that video. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'd say they gave him like $5,000 to record that video.
It's almost like on screen getting paid. That's what it seems
yeah,
like.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what am I supposed to say? Like reading cue cards?
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
They're just having fun.
They're just guys having fun.
Just having a good time.
It's nice they took the sheets off.
I have thought, I know there's when you stay in a hotel, I know you sort of always think, oh god, like what's happened in this room.
Yeah.
But since Tickles, I have thought, oh my god, like so many things have happened in these
You
rooms.
Can't even begin.
You know, like I never would have imagined there would be like 10 people tickling each other and filming it. But I mean, everything has happened in a hotel room.
I guess that's the least of your worries, though.
Yeah, tickling
Oh.
doesn't like.
If-
Oh
prevent
no,
anything.
I'm not complaining.
No,
Like,
no, I'm
please
just saying,
tickle.
yes, yes,
Tickle.
yeah.
Patrick,
That's
he's not an
fine.
anti-tickle guy. We've learned that.
Yeah, God, so many limbs.
You're right, though. He did remove.
The sheets are
bed
not there.
sheets.
Yeah,
It's
only
actually a
just
pretty
pop
clean.
out.
It's actually a pretty clean mattress.
Well, I was gonna say I only noticed because one of the other mattresses was not clean, and that was
Oh,
why I
yeah.
noticed it.
Oh,
Ugh.
yeah. I mean, we were. Muskegon was such a great, like, the city was such a great character in the film
Mhm.
because it's getting like, by this point in the film, there's only so many tickling stories you can hear before it all starts to double up.
Yeah,
And this just represented that, holy shit, this is all over America. And then Jordan's the person that tells us that, no, it's actually like all over the world. They're doing this in like London and New Zealand. And it's this great moment where you're like,
oh yeah.
Holy shit, this is
there's
big.
There is one line they say like we set up a tickle cell.
oh yeah,
And,
tickle cell.
Yes.
Oh,
and I
that was
just
a
like-
moment where
I was
I'm
like,
like,
you
oh,
must
there's
be-
the line.
Yes, you must be
Tickle
psyched.
cell?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I heard it all.
Yes.
But we're using language like that like it's normal.
Yeah.
Oh, his whole family.
It's so
Yeah.
sad, but she knows that he shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, totally.
And they were cool talking to you. They wanted to talk to you. Like,
They were. And it's like there's so much like in America, like in New Zealand, people are so shy. People don't really want to talk. But in America, we turned up. I didn't even need to tell them that we were a crew. We just opened the door. I think Jordan had said saying they're making a doc or something.
mhm,
We walk in there. She's not looking down the camera lens.
mhm.
She's just, it's like America knows what to do when
Right.
there's a camera.
Yeah.
And it was remarkable, and they were so open. And I think I was probably the one that was nervous in that room, being like, God, are we okay to shoot? They were fine. Yeah, shooting things in America is so different to filming things in New Zealand.
Just because people don't want to be a part of it,
Yeah,
or
people in
yeah.
New Zealand are shy, really struggle to tell a story that doesn't go in a million directions. Americans can give you like a 10-second line you can put in a trailer.
Sure.
They land the story at the end. They have the punchline.
Everyone wants their moment.
Yeah,
They know this is the
but
moment.
It's built
and-
into you.
Yeah.
Thought I'd wear the same shirt as him. Oh, something did happen when we were, waiting. So when we were meeting Jordan at his house, part of us thought that it might be a setup and that we would go in and like get.
Oh,
we were so
sure.
paranoid through this.
Sure,
actually.
of course.
Yeah.
And so we were scared. We thought it might be a setup. And we were waiting outside, and Dom was like, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm going to, like, shit my pants.
Yeah.
And he hadn't come home yet. And Dom went into the house, and because he wasn't home yet, because he'd
Wow.
said, you can go in if you need to. Being worried that there might be people in there, like, ready to beat us up, but went in, took a massive shit in his toilet, and then ran out. And then he arrived home immediately. And we all went into the house together, and there was just a smell that
Sure.
someone had taken a massive shit. He never raised it. We never raised it. But we all knew what had happened.
How he knows the name David D'Amato,
And
and he has the moment where he's like,
yeah. No, this is how long it's been since I've
okay,
watched this.
yeah. He's like, I'm shaking. You said the name. He's like, I'm shaking. If I saw that guy, if he woke up,
No,
I'd
we
punch
told
or
him. We
Oh,
told him
okay.
who was behind it,
Oh, okay.
and he was like pretty annoyed.
So it's just that he found out the name.
he found it was a guy that had been leading him along the whole time. At least that's my memory of it.
Was
You
it
know this
only
better
weird
than
to
I
him
do.
once it was a guy? That's what, was it
Yeah.
only weird once it was a guy? He's
I
like, wait a
mean,
minute.
Yeah,
Maybe,
this-
yeah.
Yeah, now I'm not happy.
This isn't romantic.
But that was kind of a lot of it. Like, people didn't mind if it was for a woman. Yeah, the second is for a
strange.
guy, then it's... And that's how he'd weaponize it. He'd pick people that were generally, like, pretty homophobic. If the people in the tickling videos were all, like, okay with that side of things, he couldn't use them to blackmail them, you know? So he picked the most heterosexual middle American
MMA
dudes.
fighters, military
Yeah.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, so that when that video was leaked, it would actually horrify them. Like, you put me all over the internet being tickled by guys, I could give less shits.
Mhm.
Like, it's fine. For them, it was their worst nightmare. And yeah, this is the second stakeout in the film.
So we're in Long Island now.
We're on Long Island.
Had you ever been to Long Island before?
Never.
Okay.
Have you been back since?
I've befriended a family that
Oh.
have sort of like adopted me, and so I've been back quite a few times.
Oh, that's great.
And so it's nice going back there as like a punter. It's a certain vibe.
Yeah.
Money, it's moneyed place.
Is that family in this area?
They're like a 20-minute
Okay.
drive.
Have you ever driven by the building again?
I have.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, it's flashbacks.
Yeah, of course. Have you been to the Tickle Studio since you've been in
No.
LA more? Yeah, no.
I actually can't remember exactly where it was. I think I drove past, so I'd remember it.
Call Dylan.
Cool. But we, this was where this call was. So all we wanted to do at this point was confront D'Amato. It's like we needed that in the film to have an ending. Dylan's on the phone with Carthy, our producer, and he's the producer. He did Hunt for the Wilder People. He's done a bunch of Taika stuff. He was he was there to make sure that we didn't get sued into the ground. And he was basically like, don't annoy D'Amato. Like, our lawyers have said we're at the point where, like, don't. And they're like, we're here to see him and
Yeah.
annoy
The
him.
whole point, yeah.
And so this was a point where we were just incredibly frustrated at our own production. And yeah, what do? We ended up just deciding to go and confront him anyway.
It's nice that you keep that in the movie.
But we did it politely.
You did it very politely.
Yeah, and when I confront D'Amato, like, I wish I'd gone in stronger, but the whole time in the back of my head is like, do this but don't annoy him.
Yeah.
You did it very friendly and very much I just want to know. Like, not angry. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it probably was the right
Yeah.
it probably was the right way to go.
You had photos of him before, so you knew what he looked like and everything?
Yeah, we had a private investigator establish that he definitely lived at that building, and we had him find out what model car he had and the
Oh, wow.
plates and all that
Okay.
kind of thing. So yeah, we knew what he looked like. We knew he was there. And then we'd gone into the lobby. So this was when we shot in New York a second time. When we went over on the Kickstarter funds, we went to this building as well. And it's actually the first time we ever talked about this. We saw D'Amato pull up,
Uh-huh.
and he looked into the
Oh
lobby,
my God.
and I think he saw a tripod and a
Oh
camera,
my
and he drove on.
Wow.
So we had already been to this building
Yeah.
and sighted him, and he had fucked off. And so this shoot was felt more sort of on edge, because it's like we have to get him this time. And we knew we couldn't go into the lobby and wait for him in the lobby, because that didn't work. We needed to get him like coming out and to confront him wherever he drove to.
Insane.
Yeah. Very serious face from Dylan.
Did you, when you're doing these phone calls, because you also later, we could talk about it when we get to it, but you call his stepmother.
Yeah.
Are you like, we got to film this in a cool looking
Absolutely.
area? It's something that's on your
or
mind when
every,
you're...
every phone call. It's like, we got to have it looking good.
Yeah.
People might be watching this on a big screen.
Look at that shot. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, New York does look so good.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad we were there in winter, because it's so like, it just feels so much scarier and like freakier.
When you're filming this, do you think that you will move to the U.S. at any point?
No.
No.
No, I'm still like firmly, I live in New Zealand. I work in a newsroom there. I just got a new job, like co-presenting a show on late night TV. So it's like, yeah, this is my career.
What was the moment that you decided to come here?
It was COVID. I came over here for a job and I couldn't go back because New Zealand shut the border. And so it wasn't really my choice. But it got so stressful trying to go back and get a space in our like managed isolation facilities that our military had set up. I was just like, it's easiest to stay here, I think.
Does it feels like from the outside that that's the place to be when things go down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They seem like they made it through pretty okay.
Yeah, New Zealand,
grand
I
scheme
mean,
of
we saved a lot of lives because, like, we kept COVID out for such a long time. Like, we were so stringent. And then by the time we did get COVID, our vaccination rates were pretty high. And it was kind of amazing. Yeah, that was our old Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, that did a pretty good job. Although everyone turned on her because now a bunch of people are like, how dare you shut the country down for so long? It was so cold. We ordered pizza to the spot. Because we couldn't leave. It's like we knew the second we left, we'd miss him. That's our pizza.
Did you ever meet the private investigators that he sent on you guys?
No.
No, you never saw them? You never?
No.
Okay.
No, never had a conversation with them.
Do you think they were real?
Yeah, they were
Okay.
real. The PIs and the lawyers were real. That was one of the funny things to try and establish here, who was real
Yeah, totally.
and who was full of shit. But D'Amato was kind of sloppy, and when he was writing the fake stuff, it was kind of obvious.
Sure. It's a nice building.
Yeah, it was nice like 15 years ago.
It looks like an abandoned hospital to me. Like
It was,
interesting,
yeah,
yeah.
no, it was fancy back in the
Yeah,
day, but
all right,
I
it,
see
it
it
had
now. Sure.
dated.
Yeah.
It had dated.
I wonder if he had any other false names going around for other things that had
Sure.
nothing to do with the tickling
Yeah,
fetish.
he must have.
Yeah.
One thing he would do is he hated waiting in line at Starbucks, and he had a fake NYPD police badge.
Sure he did.
And to get to the front of the line, he'd flash it, and they would. And then one day there were a couple of officers behind him who
Oh.
caught him
Wow.
and laid into him
Yeah.
verbally,
Just a
and he
bad
stopped
person.
doing it. Yeah, so he had a wacky aspect.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is a car chase.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
this
say-
Oh,
is-
it's so good.
Is this the most tense moment
yeah.
while you're filming? Yeah.
Oh, because Dylan is like so stressed. He's making me stressed. I'm thinking he's gonna, because you're so self-conscious when you're tailing someone. You're like, they're gonna see us.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a fuck. He's not looking in there. Like, you don't.
He's
Is
not
that why you
expecting
put the mirror
Yeah.
down? Yeah. Of
Mirrors
course.
down. We're right behind. We're like, but we don't want to lose him. It's so slow.
But again, the music is
also-
great in it. Like it's
Yeah, that's
edited
all-
so
that's
well.
all roadie stuff.
Yeah.
The score is on. It's out there on Spotify.
Oh,
Tickled
that's amazing.
soundtrack. Yeah, all the music's there. But I also realized that pretty soon I have to talk to him.
Yeah.
So that's scaring me.
Yeah. What was the plan? Like, what changed from in your head, saying this is what I'm going to say to him when we get out, versus what happened in reality?
I had a number of like facts lined up, like things I knew that were like, and I wanted to put those questions to him directly,
Mm-hmm.
but that all left my brain.
Sure.
And what was in my head mainly when I met him, I thought if I was nice to him, there was still a chance that he would sit down and talk
Yeah,
on
sure.
camera.
Sure.
So my whole thing was friendly. Maybe he can come on side.
You look like you do not want to do it.
Oh, I don't.
Oh no. Yeah.
No, because I'm not a confrontational person. Like, I don't like fight. We thought he might have a gun or a knife in the glove
Yeah.
box. Like, we're still thinking like he could. I don't know what the fuck he's gonna do. Knew he definitely didn't want me there. Oh, horrible. Horrible.
What is
moment.
his
Felt
face
very alone.
When you see him realize it's you.
Oh, he does. His eyes do that. Like, what? But then, apart from that, he was very smooth. He was speaking like in a very controlled way. He got in his car. He threatened me, saying that there he fucking is.
Here it is.
Mm.
Ugh.
I just felt horrible.
Of course. But he's also not a good guy.
Yeah, and
You
so
know,
the
so
plan
it's-
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, we were. This plan wasn't a good plan. Like, we were riding between.
This plan wasn't.
No, it wasn't, because we'd talked so much. Like, we can't get out and shoot in his face because our producer had told us not to annoy him.
Yeah.
But Dylan was like, no, fuck. And thank God he did.
Yeah,
Dylan was like,
right.
fuck that. We need to get it close to this. I was shooting on my cell phone, but the shot was terrible. So thank God Dylan did get out of the car.
And this is a over-the-shoulder camera, or is this? What is this?
Yeah. This is just a little guy on the shoulder.
Did you consider tickling him?
Oh, fuck. I was terrified. At this point, I was still like, check he doesn't have like any weapons in
Sure.
the car. Because America's scary for me still, because people have guns.
I mean, it is funny. Every time you guys correct him on a law, we're like, no,
Yeah,
we could do this.
He's got nothing
We
back.
could do it. And he's like, I don't know. And you're like, no, I promise
That
we
was
can.
it was one thing I knew, it was like that I was on legally steady ground. But I was just trying to keep him talking. I was just hoping he'd talk long enough that maybe he'd be like, let's talk somewhere. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking
we'll
I'd
meet
somehow
tomorrow
win him
and
over.
talk. Yeah.
I'll see
Off
you at
he
the right
goes.
venue, believe me, is such a funny line, too. It's so
Yeah.
funny.
The
'Cause then
MMA
he,
cage is what he meant.
yeah, he doesn't really come out again. You know what I
No.
mean? Until the premiere.
No, this was the last.
Yeah.
And it worked so well in this documentary that he was this person that was so in the distance.
Yes.
Right.
He's
You
an
got
idea.
that moment of him. Just such relief that we'd got him on camera.
How did you feel when that was done? What was your guys' reaction? Were you like, we did it, we got it?
It was 50-50. It was joy that we had. It was also like we could have got so much more.
Sure.
Dom was so furious that he hadn't shot that shot because we'd told him, like, don't fuck him off, don't get out of the car. And then Dylan ends up being the one running across. So Dom was annoyed he didn't get a beautiful shot. We were just so indecisive about what that was. Like, it's amazing it worked as well as it did in the end. And then this is the directory structure that was suddenly public.
Now, I don't want to send anyone to this, but is it still out there?
Good question. I don't know, actually. I think
Why
they
don't
were
you
actually on his physical computer that was plugged into the internet, and that's all gone now. So I'm pretty sure it's all offline.
What happened to all of his money?
It's currently. I actually wrote a big piece on Webworm, my newsletter, about this.
Good plug. Good plug.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No. Basically, it's called "What Happened to David D'Amato's Millions," and he's currently. Well, it's just wrapped up. Was in a lawsuit with his stepmom Dorothy, who's at the end of the film, and the estate, over what would happen to it.
Huh.
But essentially, most of the money is now with the executor of the will, and I think he's deciding what he's going to do with it.
And it was just a friend of his, or
He was someone that taught with him at school.
Oh wow!
And all I'll say is that he's a good guy. Sure. And I think he probably wants to do like positive things with the money as opposed to building a new house or whatever. But yeah, this hard drive gave us, because our lawyers were freaking out a bit, and this hard drive just gave us every bit of evidence. So they're like, oh no, you can put the film out, and if he takes you to court, you can definitely defend yourself.
And
Wow.
he supplied it. He supplied it accidentally.
Yeah, it's insane.
Unbelievable.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it was a self-destructive thing or stupidity or luck that on that day I checked
Yeah.
and it was all open and online.
It just it all worked out,
It all worked out.
which is
Sometimes in life, not all the time, mostly not, but sometimes it does all work out. All the emails that we were like, we knew it was him, but we couldn't prove it. That was all there. What the hell?
wild. Andy's using LegalZoom, which we have a promo code, and
Love it. So this guy here, this is a lawyer called Romeo Salter who David D'Amato had hired to send us threats because he needed a real lawyer to scare us off. There's a Netflix doc called Don't Fuck With Cats, which is about this Canadian killer who he killed animals on YouTube, and then I don't want to get this wrong, I feel like he murdered someone, I think,
oh wow, okay,
and streamed it.
yeah, sure.
He also hired Romeo Salter as his attorney for a while.
Oh, wow.
And so Romeo Salter, this guy, is in quite a bit of that Don't Fuck With Cats doc. And then when Tickled came out, I started getting letters from prison from that killer who was incarcerated in a Canadian prison. He'd watched Tickled, and he wrote to me saying, basically trying to make me think. His letter was, I've watched Tickled. David D'Amato set me up for all these deaths. I think because he'd seen Romeo Salter in the
wow.
film, he had some elaborate story
Wow.
that was clearly full of shit. But he wrote me a few times trying to convince me to basically, I don't know, go to the authorities and say, this horrific killer has been set up by this guy that did tickling videos.
He's like, look, we're all part of the same cinematic universe.
You know, kind of. No, it is. No, so Don't Fuck with Cats and Tickled is part of the same cinematic universe.
That's amazing. Do you think they had a tickled night in jail? Like, how did he see this movie?
I don't. I'm always curious in jail how, especially Tickled.
Yes.
Like, how do you watch this specifically? It's not like it's streaming on like late night. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that's what they play to all the Canadian prisoners. It's like Tickled on loop. It's like, take this.
Man.
And yeah, and at this point, you know, we knew we had D'Amato on camera, which is compelling, but not amazingly compelling. Yeah. We had the hard drive, which was, we had the end of the film. We're like, this is good. This will land. And then the very last thing we did really shooting was calling his stepmom.
Oh, this really was the last thing.
This was before we found the leak hard drive.
Okay.
But as far as our shoot goes, we'd saved her to the end because we didn't know if she was still in touch with him and it would tip him off that we were in town. Sure. And it just ended up being one of those gifts from heaven where she just gives us the one bit of like humanizing him. Yeah. And you sort of makes you kind of go, oh, this is not just a, you know, boogeyman, but had his own life and worries, and there's potentially a reason how he got this way.
Yeah.
The amazing thing I will say is that she's so timid in this call, and she feels like this frail old woman. What I found out since that she is like ruthless and incredibly wealthy.
Oh, wow.
And when David D'Amato passed away, she has been embroiled in litigation for like 3 years to get that money.
Wow.
She's full on.
Wow.
And was she married to his father when his father passed?
I don't know. It's all murky in my brain. I should know this.
Yeah. But she's just the last one that's around.
She's the steer. She's the stepmom. She definitely had, you know, David had beef with her for being like the stepmom. Yeah.
I definitely pictured her in like an old kitchen, like just an old lady, like
I know
a small house.
No, I think she was probably in a massive mansion.
Wow.
But yeah, and we debated for a long time whether we were going to do. We had a treatment of this where we were doing recreations of everything she's telling us as David D'Amato as a kid, and all those things. But it just ended up being much stronger just to stay on the call where we are.
Sure.
And I'm glad we did. And yeah, that was a call where I was like, oh my God, she's just still talking. And she's telling us so much.
How long were you on the phone with her?
Probably 20 minutes. And I just didn't I expected a hang up, you know, but she just kept talking. There was stuff she said in this that was defamatory. She went way more into detail of what she thought had happened to him.
Okay.
But and it was really powerful, but there was no way to
prove it.
So we had to cut it out. But she was not holding back.
I mean,
from her thoughts on how he ended up being that way.
It is such a wild ending to the movie to like have all of this, and it feels so cathartic.
The two main criticisms of the film, I think some people were upset that he wasn't in prison, in which case I can just say I can't sort of...
Not up to you.
Not up to me. And there was one really amazing review in a gay magazine that basically was like really legitimately like upset that there wasn't more erotic tickling.
That's amazing.
Like they didn't care about the thriller aspect.
Very funny.
They were just like, this was meant to be about tickling, and there wasn't enough.
I was promised tickling.
I can't get off from this sad phone call.
That's so funny.
It's kind of like Jaws, though. The shark's not in it a lot, but when it is, it's very effective.
Yeah. And the stepmother of the tank's blowing up, right? At the end? Yeah.
They finally get David.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of text at the end of a doc.
Oh,
I
sure.
think people are mixed on it.
No, I think it's good. I think it's because also so much stuff happened after this doc
Completely
ended.
I just think it's a compelling way to get certain information across.
Yes. How much stuff happened between the ending of the doc? You know, you're editing the doc, whatever, and then when Sundance happens.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
It sort of went quiet. We heard from a few people that were like, oh, they would have been a good interview to have. But no, the drama really started again when the film was out, because that was like, he sort of reactivated. And I mean, it was a dream because at Sundance, you know, he sends Kevin to Sundance. And so, you know,
He
one of
makes
our
it
first
a big deal, like a bigger deal.
He's like in the cinema, he's like making a fuss, and you know, suddenly like people around get freaked out, and then Sundance brings in bomb dogs. You know, we had, you know, because we were trying to sell this thing at Sundance, we had one meeting where the buyer or the potential buyer was so paranoid that like we were going to get like assassinated or there was going to be a bomb. That we had to meet in a car at like a secret location. Like they wouldn't let us come to their accommodation.
Wow.
But that was amazing for selling a film because like of all these incredible films at Sundance, like Everything Everywhere. Swiss Army Man.
Oh wow, yeah.
That was there that year. And you know, to be able to sell it at that festival was like a huge win. And part of that was the hype that David D'Amato created from sending people there.
Yes, which is something we're going to talk about. That we're about to watch The Tickle King. I think we're going to make it a second episode so people can listen to the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's
while we do that. Yeah, it's a cliffhanger.
There's a lot in Tickle King.
But before this is done, I mean, were you guys trying to sell it before you went to Sundance, or were you like, Sundance is where we are going to sell it?
Sundance is the thing.
Sundance is the
it was
thing.
like, we will see how we fare at this festival and see how it goes. And we had the Bronze on board as sales agents, so we were like, we had people there working for us, which was amazing. Because Sundance is just a confusing mess. It was a really fun though, because I mean, Hunt for the Wilder People was there, so like Taika showed us around, and
a good shout out to Stephen Tobolowsky in the Kickstarter backing.
Yeah,
Tobolowsky
Tobo.
Files, a king, a real king.
Oh, he was so supportive. Yeah, Jermaine Clement gave some money. Joel Kafali, he's a really amazing music video director.
That's great. What a movie.
It was a time.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Wow.
Crazy.
It was a good movie.
A crazy movie.
What'd you guys think? You can't answer.
You can't
Hey, look
answer.
at that. So can I tell you what the awkward moment was?
I would love to hear about
Okay,
it.
when the movie came out, somebody sent me a link.
Yes.
It might have been David and said,
Yes.
would you watch this?
Yes.
So I watched it,
Yes.
and it was great.
Yeah.
I don't know if David remembered that he sent me that link. So during the podcast, you might recall, he said, how did you see it? And I didn't want to bring up that story because then it's a lot of backstory. So what did I say? I said, how did you watch it? Let's turn the tables or something. Like, I got so
It was
defensive.
very uncomfortable.
And he's this, no, I think he wrote it out real quick, but he's the sweetest guy, and then I just jumped down his throat.
Sure, but it was very uncomfortable.
Oh, it was? Has he texted you about it?
It's all he's texted me about.
No.
In a few weeks, we're going to have an episode where we watch The Tickle King, which is the 20 to 25 minute follow-up.
Which is on YouTube. Watch it right now.
Yep, it's free on YouTube with David again, and it's another truly wild ride.
It's more surprising than the first movie.
It's also crazy because so much stuff has happened since The Tickle King came out.
Oh, there's going to be a third one.
There's more stuff
Right.
that happened.
What would the third one be called?
Uh,
I would call it Tickled Beyond Tickle Dome because it's the third one. That's not good?
I mean, it's good.
How about Trickled because it's the third one?
The third one.
I don't know.
TICKL3D.
That's not bad.
That's not bad,
How about
yeah.
Tickled 3D? Well, they should make it not in 3D, though. In parentheses, it says not in 3D. All right. So, yeah, I look forward to The Tickle King, which is coming in a couple episodes from now.
Mm-hmm.
But watch it now. Watch it.
Watch it now. It's good. It's
It'll
free.
be the best thing you watch all week.
Yes. Okay. Have fun. Bye.
Have fun.
That's how we wrap these up.
Cool.
Let's try that again.
No, I think that's really good and awkward to just stumble out like that.
Thanks for listening to Hey That's Me, a commentary podcast. Your hosts have been Patrick Ottner and Brian Lynch. You can find out more about the show at heythat'smepod.com or on social media at heythat'smepod. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/commentary, where you can find out about guests early, submit questions for us to ask on the show, or even do a commentary to your own favorite movie with me. Our music was by Alex Peabody, and our art was by Abigail Noy. Special thanks to Annalise Nelson and Mark David Christensen. Be sure to leave us a review on iTunes or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. This has been a That Was Just So Funny production. Please tell your friends about this show.